Report, which will return in 1 minute. The Wells Report returns in 30 seconds. North to south, coast to coast, around the world, this is the Wells Report. On this broadcast, we report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. What we do is we de-propagandize the American news media. We do make comment. Commentary, however, is not news. Commentary is opinion. And you have an opinion, I have an opinion about a host of things, and we compare them. That's debate. So news, analysis, commentary, and debate, this is the Wells Report. And so the term lawfare has entered the American consciousness. The reason it is in the American consciousness is because it was coined by a man who is undergoing the withering assault of lawfare. The use of law in a way to alter somebody's life or somebody's ambitions or somebody's career. In this particular case, former President Donald Trump is being victimized by lawfare to assault his chance to return to the presidency of the United States in the 2024 election. CNN reports this today, that former President Donald Trump cannot find an insurance company to underwrite a bond to cover the massive judgment against him in the New York Attorney General's civil fraud case. This, according to his lawyers, speaking to a New York appeals court. Trump's attorney said he has approached 30 underwriters to back the bond. How does this work, in case you're wondering? Yeah, I mean, how does it work? Typically, someone will issue a bond that it costs 10% of the actual value of the bond. So we're talking about $464 million. That's how much the bond would have to be worth. The amount of the judgment, not the bond, but the actual judgment. It equals $500 million. Consequently, what ends up happening is a bond company takes somewhere in the realm of, in this case, $46.4 million as 10% of the $4.64 million as a 10% payment on the $464 million. However, if Donald Trump, say, for example, defaults on that bond, then the bond company is legally liable for $464 million, $500 million. How many bond companies have that kind of cash? The answer is not many. It's not that Donald Trump doesn't have the money. It's that Donald Trump doesn't want to essentially put all of his chips on a table to be able to finance what is an appeal that will very likely succeed in New York courts. Even New York courts can't turn aside the basic aspect of any of this. And the whole thing is ridiculous. But yeah, so Donald Trump is having trouble finding a bond. It's not that he doesn't have the money. He does. There's no bond company willing to take it. Is it because Donald Trump has lousy credit? No, he's not going anywhere. The bond is safe. The problem is that bond companies just don't have $500 million to guarantee the bond that they accept. That's the situation as we see it. CNN continues. The amount of the judgment with interest exceeds $464 million. Very few bonding companies will consider a bond of anything approaching that magnitude. Trump himself was ordered to pay $454 million. $464 million includes the disgorgement for his adult sons, Don Jr. and Eric. An insurance broker, Gary Giulietti, who testified for Trump during the civil fraud trial, signed an affidavit stating that securing a bond in the full amount is a practical impossibility. What do we know about this? Well, we started this particular essay out with the word lawfare. So what are we doing? What we're trying to do is we're trying to chase Donald Trump out of New York and bankrupt him. That's what they're working to do. This judgment is draconian. It's ridiculous. It's record-setting, especially based on a law that's never been used this way. And so nobody's going to touch it because it's a practical impossibility, according to Gary Giulietti. And he's absolutely correct. The judge knew this. The judge knew that this was going to be the case, and that's why he delivered that crushing fine to Donald Trump. This is all part of a plan. It's lawfare, and it's awful. It's absolutely, cynically awful. Potential underwriters are seeking cash to back the bond, not properties, according to Trump's lawyers. They don't want those buildings. Why don't they want the amazing real estate assets that Donald Trump has on hand? Why won't they take that as counterbalance for the bond? Well, because in one fell swoop, the New York courts have made it impossible to do real estate business in New York. Not only are those buildings unmovable, you can't secure funding for them because now the state has to sign off on your valuations of the properties you own and the properties that you want to own. They have to sign off on all the financial business dealings. And if you step aside or step outside of their particular paradigm, then you're going to find yourself in Donald Trump's position. So nobody's interested in those buildings in New York. You have to do a deal. You have to do a real estate deal in New York. Nobody's going to do a real estate deal in New York. You'd be stupid. You'd be absolutely idiotic to make that move. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And so, no, they don't want the properties. They're valueless. Congratulations, New York. You got just what you wanted. The most expensive real estate in the world, with the possible exception of Tokyo. And the New York courts, in this narrow, political, grotesque abuse of power in the law, has rendered the entire New York real estate market valueless. Valueless. And of course, that can't be anything but more of a calculation from Judge Engoron against Donald Trump. So not only does he require exorbitant amounts of money, he realizes that there's no bond company that's going to be able to carry the bond. And in the same stroke, he invalidates the value of all of Trump's real estate holdings and real estate in the entire city. I hope that I do not often wish ill on anyone. But the only reason that the entire New York City or New York real estate market has not collapsed is because real estate people can't believe they're in this situation. If the New York appeals court does not reverse this situation, New York will be like Detroit. All those buildings will be empty. Countless real estate brokers in New York will go bankrupt. People who live in those incredibly expensive apartments, Lower Manhattan and elsewhere, they're not going to be able to pay those loans because the actual property is valueless. It's very much like the derivative scandal in 2008. Remember? Remember when Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the federal government's mortgage lender, mortgage guarantors, suddenly started giving loans to people that really couldn't qualify for them, and RNB Paribas the National Bank of France, said, no, we're not touching these derivatives. It almost destroyed the entire world economy. Well, this is a mini version of this. They've engineered themselves into a gigantic mess. And it will eventually, if the appeals court does not reverse this decision, implode the New York real estate market. Trump doesn't have anything to do with it. This is just an incredible lawfare political overreach, an abuse of law, an abuse of power. And they've engineered this little trap for Donald Trump. And that's awful. That's awful. So Trump's lawyers have asked the appeals court to delay posting the bond until his appeal of the case is over, arguing the value of Trump's properties far exceed the judgment. If the appeals court rules against him, Trump asked the courts to delay posting the bond until his appeal to the New York's highest court is heard. Trump said this was yesterday that he thought it was practically impossible for him to post the bond. In a post on Truth Social, he claimed the size of the bond is unconstitutional, un-American, unprecedented, and practically impossible for any company, including one as successful as mine. The bonding companies have never heard of such a bond of this size, nor do they have the ability to post one, even if they wanted to. There's not a bonding company in the world that has $500 million on hand. There's no way. Last month, Trump was ordered to pay $355 million in disgorgement or ill-gotten gains by New York Judge Arthur Engoron in a civil fraud case brought by New York Attorney General Letitia James. Engoron wrote in his 93-page decision that Trump and his co-defendants, including his adult sons, were liable for fraud. They were liable for conspiracy and issuing false financial documents and false business records, finding that the defendants fraudulently inflated the values of Trump assets to gain more favorable loan and insurance rates. That's none of the court's business. It's none of the court's business. Unless the court wants to make it their business, in which case there is no such thing as free enterprise, free market economics in New York real estate. The state will determine the value of your property. The state will determine the value of your holdings. And if indeed you disagree with the state, well, you're screwed. Also, not only that, but if you disagree and then publish your disagreement on, say, for example, loan application papers, you're going to have yourself ruined. There is no real estate market in New York. It's gone until this appeals court figures it out. And yeah, there can be an appeals court that says, nope, we agree with Engoron. And then the New York Supreme Court will reverse this decision. And the reason they'll reverse it is because if they don't, the Supreme Court of the United States is going to stomp on them, just like the Supreme Court did with Colorado. It'll be a 9-0 decision. It'll be all over with. And every single one of the people sitting on all of these appeals courts in New York will be disgraced forever, and they should be, for aiding and abetting this lawfare, aiding and abetting this totalitarian move to use the law as a way to alter politics. My friends, that's the abyss. That is the abyss. We've been watching these people edge into this for decades. And they were called conspiracy theorists. Oh, your tinfoil hat's looking a little dull. You need to polish it up. Well, that tinfoil hat is gleaming brightly, isn't it? Don't you think? This is outrageous. And yeah, it affects the 2024 presidential election. You know, there's such a thing as biting off more than you can chew. The American left has bitten off more than they can chew to the point where it will suffocate them. This is political suicide for the left. And they deserve their demise, in my view. What do you think? 817-379-2172, 817-379-2172. Just getting started with the Wells Report here on your favorite platform. By all means, let us know what you think. Hit the chat room or 817-379-2172. Back in a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. Good morning. John David Wells at your service. Telephone number 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. Out of the chat room, Poker says if Trump does not win and we do not take over both houses of Congress in a huge red wave, our country will continue swirling down the toilet. In a meeting at the moment, says Yvonne, she's going to be there shortly. She wants to comment on this. John says this is nothing short of a financial assassination. I can't disagree. There is reporting on this. Let's see it here on the Wells Report as we get rolling through Monday morning.
This is going to take a long time. And I say that because there's really no incentive for the New York court system to speed this along, because speed would be in Donald Trump's favor. I think he has actually a very strong argument on the merits, several different arguments, one of which is the classic definition of fraud, which even first-year law students are taught was not applied in this case. Now, that's because of the way this judge ruled. The meaning of Executive Law 63 under the New York State Code says that a lot of those things that everyone understands fraud to be does not apply under the statute. And that's going to give rise to a very difficult legal question for the Court of Appeals in New York as to whether or not they're literally going to jettison, hundreds of years of jurisprudence as to what fraud means because of the way this particular New York statute's written. That's going to be a difficult question, because if you take the fraud out of fraud in a sense, then what you have is something much different. And if it's something much looser than what is fraud, then how do you justify these draconian penalties on any American, not just Donald Trump?
And so that was Mark Smith. He is a constitutional lawyer, and he is, I think, right on the button when it comes to this level of circumstance, insofar as he's talking about just exactly where Trump is headed in all of this. And all I can say is that it's awful, and a lot of people agree. Well, except for Platinum Eagle. Let's see. Platinum Eagle Studios says, yes, go to jail, Trump. Why? Then he goes, let's see, Donald Trump is racist. Then he says he's a white supremacist, and he goes to KKK meetings. This is derangement. There is no proof of any of this. You're just spewing, Platinum. So please, by all means, sit down until you've got a cogent thought, because these aren't. Now, that's just chat room rules. We don't deal with trolls on this particular broadcast. We just don't. And the reason is because they're antithetical to what we're trying to get done. We're trying to have a real conversation here. We're trying to have an honest to goodness, real conversation regarding the American state, the state of America at this time. And this kind of stuff is ridiculous. No, old man, you're brain dead. Okay. All right, that's fine. Again, totally useless. One more of those, Platinum, and you're gone. I really don't like getting rid of people that, as a matter of fact, I don't get rid of people who disagree. What I do is I disappear people that are distractions. And it's not because I don't want to hear their point of view. It's just they don't have one. All they're trying to do is disrupt. And they're making statements that are boldly inaccurate and boldly crazy. And they know it. At least I think they know it. I'm really kind of nervous about trying to ascribe mental capability to people that I deal with. Like, for example, this guy right here. He says, I'm brain dead. Well, if you start attacking the mentality of the person you're arguing with, you've just lost the argument. So there you go. So the point is this: Donald Trump has been victimized, and the law has been used to do it. It sets a precedent that will go far beyond not just this case, not just this election, but will go far beyond into the future of this republic if it's allowed to stand. And this is where the judicial branch of our government, and thus the genius of the people who set it up, is going to have to save the day. That's just simply the case. And I certainly hope that they indeed do so. This is the Wells Report. John David Wells, thanking you very much for being with us. It is the 19th day of March, year of our Lord, 2022.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Good morning. My name is John David Wells. Donald Trump is being victimized by the laws of this land. Laws used in novel ways that have never been tried, except, as a matter of fact, nobody was ever actually prosecuted under the laws that Donald Trump is being prosecuted under, at least in the federal cases. No president has ever been in a position where a local DA, a state attorney general, and what have you, have been able to throw spurious or even scurrilous charges against a sitting president of the United States and a president who was a sitting president of the United States. Donald Trump commented on this in a Forbes interview, and we have part of that for you right this very minute.
I am greeted with a hostile press, the likes of which no president has ever seen. The closest would be that gentleman right up there. They always said Lincoln. Nobody got treated worse than Lincoln. I believe I am treated worse. You're there. You see those press conferences. They come at me with questions that are disgraceful, to be honest, disgraceful. Their manner of presentation and their words. And I feel that if I was kind to them, I'd be walked off the stage. I mean, they come at you with the most horrible, horrendous, biased questions. And you see it, 94 or 95% of the press is hostile. And yet, if you look in Florida today, we had hundreds and hundreds of boats going up and down the intercoastal, Trump. We have tremendous support. But the media they might as well be in the Democrat Party.
Yeah. And many of them are. A lot of them are. And those people are creating situations that are irreversible. And not only are they irreversible, they are dangerous. They keep saying that President Trump is trying to foment some kind of political uprising among the people of the United States, most recently using the bloodbath comment, which was ill-advised. President shouldn't have used the word bloodbath, but there's an interesting story about that. There's an interesting story going about that at this particular moment. Last weekend, a Chinese government official used the word bloodbath before Donald Trump used it. Now, Donald Trump did not point that out before he used the term bloodbath. But that Chinese official was talking about economic bloodbath for the United States as practiced by the Chinese government against the United States of America. That just came out today. What's amazing about propaganda, it's not what you add to a story, it's what you leave out. So in other words, Donald Trump was talking to the Chinese and their threat to create an economic bloodbath in this nation. More about that coming up a little bit later on. And then there's this. When we start talking about the people who are members of the Democrat Party trying to wish ill upon the President of the United States, let's move to arch-progressive Keith Olbermann. I called Keith Olbermann once when he had just finished up one of his sports centers. And I reported honestly to him directly on the telephone. I said, Keith, you're the best I've ever seen. Then he got into news. And his news career destroyed him. He is a caricature of himself. And now he maybe has stepped over the line. This from the London Daily Mail. Former MSNBC host Keith Olbermann sparked fury after saying there's always hope that Donald Trump will be assassinated. Olbermann, a longtime media figure in sports and progressive politics, now hosts a podcast, frequently posts his takes on social media platforms. The ex-Sports Center host, who's 65, was reacting to a video posted by a Biden-Harris campaign account where Trump spoke about how he was like former President Abraham Lincoln at an Ohio rally on Saturday. Trump commented how Andrew Jackson and Lincoln were presidents treated worse in their time, adding nobody comes close to Trump, which led the account to point out that Lincoln was assassinated. And Olbermann then said, there's always hope. Really, Keith? Did you really put that out there? Yeah, he did. Our telephone number is 817-379-2172. Hi, who's this? Thanks very much for joining us on the Wells Report. What's up?
You support Trump!
No, I don't support Trump. I support America. Donald Trump just happens to be on the side of America that I support. You support Trump. Well, that's kind of good. I guess we're now getting to the point where we have drive-by crashings by people that are upset about the fact that I'm telling the truth as opposed to going along with the propaganda. Keith Olbermann has said there's always hope that that there can be an assassination. And that, by the way, was egged on by the Biden-Harris HQX account that said Trump says he's been treated worse than Abraham Lincoln, who was assassinated. That came from the Biden administration, the Biden campaign. The Biden campaign said that. And Keith Olbermann, like the press often does, decided that what they were going to do was he was going to parrot it. In other words, sustain it through his coverage. Let's see what this person has to say again. Hi, welcome back. Hello? This is the Wells Report. Can I help you? Good. That was a lot more intelligent than your last comment. It's true. Now, the specter of the fact that indeed Donald Trump may be in mortal danger has been brought up before. And when you start thinking about that, you say, hold the phone here. Hold the phone. Where are we and where are we going? Imagine somebody running against Donald Trump saying that, hey, he's evoking Lincoln and Lincoln was assassinated. That's the Biden-Harris campaign. Keith Olbermann says, well, there's always hope. Really? Tucker Carlson has an interesting, if frightening, essay on this that we're going to play here in just a little bit. Going back to the news article from the London Daily Mail. Yeah, I went offshore for this article. Many reacted to his comments, Keith Olbermann's comments, with rage and a suggestion that ex-CEO Elon Musk should ban the former Countdown anchor from the site. This account should be permanently suspended, said one. Wish of harm against terms of service X is against the terms of service of X, and that is certainly a wish of harm, both on the part of the Biden-Harris headquarters, the campaign, and by Keith Olbermann. A third tagged the ex-CEO, writing, this should be a ban from Twitter at Elon Musk. So Olbermann is a bomb thrower. He's a former sports reporter who hosted ESPN Sports Center from 1992 to 1997. He abruptly left MSNBC in 2011 in the middle of a 4-year, $30 million contract. He has a history of bomb throwing, outrageous liberal commentary on social media in his former life as a TV host and as the author of a book titled Trump is Effing Crazy. Are you kidding me, Keith? On his old MSNBC show, Olbermann referred to President George W. Bush as a fascist and called for him and Vice President Dick Cheney to resign in 2008. And by the way, when it comes to this particular subject, George W. Bush is also in the news. He was then forced to apologize for making a violent metaphor regarding Hillary Clinton during the 2008 political campaign. Olbermann previously hosted The Resistance with Keith Olbermann, a political web series for GQ magazine, that ran from 2016 to 2017, focused on opposing President Donald Trump, quitting a more recent stint at ESPN to cover politics again. More recently, he's called for the likes of Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett and Sean Hannity of Fox News to be, quote, removed from society for being enablers of Trump. So what do we know? Well, Keith has lost it. But all these people that keep saying, my God, these Republican presidential candidates or Republicans at large, et cetera, keep calling for violence, completely ignores the fact that they themselves called for violence in the political sphere in 2020 at the end of Donald Trump's presidential first term of Donald Trump. And so as we come to this, just exactly how far is this going to go? Like I said, Tucker Carlson said some things on the Adam Carolla podcast that had to do with this particular subject. But let me also bring something else. Remember, Keith Olbermann talked about the possibility that yes, indeed, that Dick Cheney and George W. Bush should have resigned. In other words, he was cozying up to the idea of the, shall we say, extra electoral dismissal of certain Republicans. Then there is this in the news, An Iraqi citizen living in Ohio plotted to smuggle ISIS sympathizers into the United States who don't care if they're killed during a mission to murder former President George W. Bush. This according to court records released today. Shahab Ahmed Shahab, 53 years of age, believed the former commander-in-chief was responsible for killing many Iraqis and destroying the country during Operation Iraqi Freedom. Shihab pled guilty last year to attempting to provide material support to terrorists, was sentenced in February to more than 14 years in prison for the plot, details of which were revealed in court documents. Shihab aided Al-Qaeda as a gun runner during the war. He brought weapons from Syria into Iraq, smuggled explosive-packed vehicles that were set as traps along the roads that Americans traveled. Shihab's plot included 2 former Iraqi intelligence agents who were able to carry out the actual assassination, while he hoped they would be, while he scoped out the former president's Texas home, coordinated travel logistics, according to court documents. He planned to smuggle the Iraqi nationals across the U.S.-Mexico border for thousands of dollars, but had no idea he was plotting the assassination with an unnamed informant identified in court papers as CS1. In recorded conversations with that FBI confidential source, Shihab admitted, quote, he wanted to be involved in the actual attack and assassination of former President Bush, and that he would be proud to give his life to that end. So here we stand. We have the idea that an American political leader, through force of scurrilous rhetoric, may indeed be at risk of his life. And have you thought about the implications of that? Have you thought about the implications of what that would mean? I have. I do it all the time. And it's frightening. And it's hypocritical. These are the same people that keep talking about the fact that indeed, when it comes right down to it, my gosh, and by golly, and all this, we have a situation where we might indeed lose a president or former president. And how would that go? This is Tucker Carlson speaking on this subject with Adam Carolla. Check this out.
They protested him. They called him names. He won anyway. They impeached him twice on ridiculous pretenses. They fabricated a lot about what happened on January 6th in order to impeach him again. It didn't work. He came back. Then they indicted him. It didn't work. He became more popular. Then they indicted him 3 more times, and every single time his popularity rose. So if you begin with criticism, then you go to protest, then you go to impeachment, now you go to indictment, and none of them work, what's next? I mean, graph it out, man. We're speeding toward assassination, obviously, and no one will say that, but I don't know how you can reach that conclusion. You know what I mean? Like, they have decided, permanent Washington, both parties have decided that there's something about Trump that's so threatening to them, they just can't have him. I mean, they're putting him on trial in March of next year in the J6 case, which basically consists of trying to send him to prison for the rest of his life for complaining about the last election. That's literally what it is. Again, if this were happening in Moldova, the State Department would issue an all-hands-on-deck order to let the world know this is not a legitimate government.
He's absolutely correct. Now, I'm in a position where I worry about President Trump's life. I certainly hope that the Secret Service is equal to the task of being able to protect this man. Not because he's Donald Trump. Not because he's Republican. Not because of any of that. But because of what could happen if indeed this next step, so feared by Tucker Carlson, egged on by not just Keith Olbermann, but the Biden-Harris campaign and members of the press. If that's successful, this country will change. What are your thoughts? 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. So now we're in a position where we have to start thinking about an awful, horrifying future, all because of American politics and the unholy alliance between the media and the Democrat Party. This is the Wells Report. We'll be back with more coming up in just a couple of minutes for this Tuesday as we keep rolling through the news. Stay put.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Telephone number 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. What are your thoughts? 817-379-2172. You can go to the chat room. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, X, Twitch, Rumble, Patreon. You can be there with us. So when I start talking about the American press egging on what could be a fatal attack against President Donald Trump, I'm not talking about fringe news sites. And in this particular conversation, I'll talk about Keith Olbermann as a fringe news site. He is. He's the left version of Alex Jones. Not serious, not real, and doing more harm than good. To that end, Laura Loomer, who is a far-right independent journalist and ally to former President Donald Trump, has indeed from time to time skirted that particular edge of the fringe. And she is saying that President Trump will be assassinated by the so-called deep state. Now, like I'm saying, you know, these are people that are raving. Well, like, for example, this guy. Hi, welcome to the Wells Report. Hello, you're on the air. Can I help you? Yeah, this guy's wasted 20 minutes of his life just trying to get through so he can scream and act like a fool. And Laura Loomer, yeah, on the fringe. Keith Olbermann on the fringe. A lot of people on the fringe. But the reason that I'm sharing this information with you is because it's being reported by Newsweek. Newsweek is a borderline serious news magazine. And I say borderline serious. It used to be fantastic. Newsweek was great. U.S. News World Report was just fantastic. Time magazine was just amazing. Until they were seduced by leftist politics and turned into, well, the kinds of things that you hear right now. Hi, welcome to the Wells Report. Hello. Yeah. And this is where, when you do this, sir, this is your very best contribution to the broadcast. It absolutely is. Your silence. So I'll just leave that alone. Anyway, 817-379-2172 is our telephone number. So Loomer, whose online content is often shared by Trump, took to X, formerly Twitter, to share the news. The Supreme Court rejected a request made by the lead prosecutor in Trump's federal election subversion case to expedite the former president's appeal. And let me look back to this. Yeah, this is a while ago. All right. And so this is a major blow, and that was the Chutkan decision. That Trump did not have presidential immunity, an argument made by Trump's lawyers in an effort to throw out the case. Then Trump appealed Chutkan's decision, and instead of the appeal going to the federal appellate court, the Department of Justice special counsel Jack Smith asked the Supreme Court to hear the case. They're going to hear the case. It's going to be next month. And that was a major blow to Jack Smith and the deep state, who were hoping to try President Trump before the 2024 election by bypassing an appeal. Deep state is used as a term to describe a group of influential government figures or the military believed to be involved in the secret manipulation of government policy. Rod Rosenstein, John Brennan, James Comey. All of these people, they're all part of it. And Andrew McCabe, I mean, they're all part of this. And these people, would they take that step? We don't know. We don't have any idea. But what I'm discussing here is I'm discussing the interaction of Newsweek magazine in this discussion. Newsweek magazine is thus egging on this discussion. Now, this was from a while ago. But let's go back to what I just did, which was possible Trump assassination. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and it goes on and on and on. And what are these news outlets, right? Well, there's Newsweek. Fox News talks about Olbermann's hope for a Trump assassination. Forbes magazine is in this. New York Times is in this. People magazine is in this. New York Post. And a lot of these people are not anti-Trump, but they are certainly egging on the process. To that particular point, maybe I'm doing the same thing. But what I'm trying to tell you is that somebody needs to let you know what the news is, and I'm letting you know that the news is here. And storm clouds are gathering. And oh, by the way, let's talk a little bit about a conversation had between Judge Andrew Napolitano, one of my friends, by the way, and Donald Trump. Napolitano said in the last days of the Trump presidency, hey, you said you were going to release the JFK records. And Donald Trump said, no, I know I said that, but if you had seen what they had shown me, you wouldn't have released them either. And then promised to tell Napolitano sometime in the future just exactly what that material was in a telephone call when 17 people weren't listening. Was that a deep state assassination too? Is that where we are here? People worry about the left taking us to third world status with the use of law as a way to hinder politics. Is that where we are now? Now we go from there to just plain outright assassination of your political rivals. And I guess the socialists and communists in Russia realize it works for Vladimir Putin, and the same people the same ilk operating here in the United States must agree. That's hour number one of the Wells Report. Hour number two is next.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Hey, thanks for joining us this morning for the Wells Report, and make sure you share us with all your friends on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, Patreon, and don't forget to check out our Substack column, which will be coming up a little bit later on this afternoon. When you do all this, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give us those thumbs up. They are really important. Check the notification box so you know when we're on the air, and whatever you do, join us every morning, Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m. Central Time, for the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Our telephone number is 817-379-2172. Last hour, we spent some time talking about Donald Trump being sundered through lawfare at law from many levels, local, state, and federal. And we've talked about the vilification of President Trump through media sources. The president himself commented on it. And we now have a circumstance where the temperature keeps getting turned up and up and up and up and up, and the specter of assassination was brought up by Keith Olbermann, but not by Keith Olbermann to begin with, by the Biden-Harris campaign. They brought it up first on an X tweet or an X post. So where do we stand? In the chat room, Susan Bunce Wachtel says, honestly, I'm surprised attempts haven't already been made on President Trump's life. Well, they have been made. They're financial. They're financial and they're legal. They're not yet kinetic, but we'll see if that's in the offing. I think they're using the open season on Trump to intimidate his supporters and conservatives. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, if you want to know what that sounds like, check this out. Welcome to the Wells Report. Hello. Hello.
Hey, Trump supporter!
See? They're losing it. They're absolutely losing it. And by the way, that's the same call I've had probably 3 or 4 times since we first identified the raving loon on the other end of the phone. But you see what's going on here? The temperature is being turned up to the point where you got people shouting into the telephone on a podcast. Scurrilous, frightened, angry, all of these things coming together in ravings. In ravings. And that is because of what is irresponsible abuse of a political candidate with whom the left disagrees, which tells you something about the left. So let's move on. I just wanted to make sure that, let me get back to Eddie Jones. Eddie Jones in the chat room says it's happened before, a page of history. He goes on to say any candidate, right-leaning to middle, beats Biden to win power. The left can't have any competition at all. True. Mark Levin over the weekend talked a little bit about how the Democrat Party has turned itself into a totalitarian socialist party. It's true. It's absolutely true. The question is, what will Democrat voters think about that? Moreover, what will they do about that? In a debate Yesterday at the Supreme Court challenging the Biden administration's alleged coordination with big tech to censor certain messages. One justice, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, raised eyebrows in her comments about the government's relationship with the First Amendment. This being reported by Fox News. The case stems from a lawsuit brought by Republican-led states Missouri and Louisiana that accused high-ranking government officials of working with giant social media companies, quote, under the guise of combating misinformation, unquote, that ultimately led to censoring speech on topics that included Hunter Biden's laptop, the origins of COVID-19, and the efficacy of face masks, which the states argued was a First Amendment violation. They argued that because that's exactly what it was. Just my opinion. The case stems from that lawsuit and led to nearly 2 hours of oral arguments. The justices debated whether the Biden administration crossed the constitutional line. In my view, they did. And whether its outreach efforts with private companies amounted to permissible persuasion or encouragement versus illegal coercion or threats of retaliation. Now, you don't have to go to big tech to be able to see this. You don't have to go to it at all. All you have to do is watch what the FBI and the DOJ does with people that go to school board meetings and disagree with pornography in the school libraries. They got visits from the FBI. Is that intimidation? Is that coercion? Is that coercion into silence? Of course it is. Of course it is. And that's at our level. The Supreme Court is dealing with it on their level and big tech's level. So Justice Samuel Alito said it's got these big clubs available to it. It's treating Facebook and these other platforms like they're subordinates. They're talking about the American political left. Ketanji Brown Jackson took a different approach. She said this, quote, your view has the First Amendment hamstringing the federal government in significant ways in the most important time periods, she told the lawyer representing Louisiana and Missouri. The government actually has a duty to take steps to protect the citizens of this country by encouraging or even pressuring platforms to take down harmful information. John Hsu is a constitutional attorney, according to Fox News, and says, quote, Justice Jackson appears to be saying she believes the state's view would prevent the government from explaining its facts or positions to social media companies when there is some danger or imminent threat. Yeah. He noted that the heart of the case revolves around where is the differentiating line between persuasion and coercion. The First Amendment does not prevent government officials from complaining about a particular post or explaining why the post is factually incorrect. In fact, that's why X has community notes. However, Hsu noted that the First Amendment prevents government officials from coercion, whether explicitly or implicitly, against publishers to remove posts or articles because the government disagrees with or does not like that viewpoint, even if it's under the guise of national security or public health. Ketanji Brown Jackson's statement was outrageous. And yes, she is completely correct in one thing. What is she correct on? So glad you asked. She was completely correct on the fact that the First Amendment hamstrings the federal government from regulating speech, which is exactly what it was intended to do, along with all the other rights of the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. Not just the Bill of Rights, but the entire Constitution hamstrings the federal government from responsible care of the people. That's called freedom and liberty, guaranteed by a constitution. So once again, when I say that, from north to south, coast to coast, around the world, people sort of smirk. They go, yeah, Wells is going around the world. Yeah, Wells does go around the world when it comes to the news, because a lot of times you can't find the news, so you have to go looking for it. This time around, I went to Sky News in Australia for this report.
What do you make of today's shock revelations about the Supreme Court justice appointed by Joe Biden?
So I'll begin. Before I answer that, I'll go on an oblique tangent for a second. Until about 15 minutes ago, the 117 billion people who've been estimated to have existed on Earth absolutely knew the definition of male or female. But yet when she was being confirmed, if you remember, she said that, she's not a biologist, so she couldn't, right? So if we have a Supreme Court justice who's incapable of telling us what a woman is, then I'm not surprised that she's having some difficulties understanding the intricacies of the First Amendment mechanisms. But to answer your question more directly, this is actually something that I speak about in The Parasitic Mind, the difference between deontological and consequentialist ethics. Deontological ethics are absolute statements of truth. So freedom of speech should be a deontological principle. You never say, I believe in freedom of speech, but on the other hand, if your spouse asks you, do I look fat in those jeans? Then you could put on your consequentialist hat, because then you might say, I'm going to lie to spare my spouse's feelings. But when it comes to foundational principles that are enshrined in the First Amendment, it has to be a deontological principle. And apparently our justice, U.S. Supreme Court justice is unaware of that distinction. So it was grotesque, but it didn't surprise me.
Yeah, it was grotesque. And frankly, it did surprise me. It surprised me that there would be a Supreme Court justice who is charged with interpreting the Constitution that has apparently no idea why the Constitution does what it does, is written the way it's written, and has been executed up until her reign in the Supreme Court in a constitutional fashion, more or less. There's been some things I've disagreed with. She cannot interpret what a woman is. How can she possibly interpret the Constitution of the United States? I don't know. I don't have any idea. All I know is that we have somebody on the Supreme Court of the United States that doesn't understand the Constitution, and her job is to interpret it. Of course, the Bill of Rights hamstrings the government. Of course it does. It must. Look at what happens when it doesn't. Justice Jackson points out COVID-19. Let's see, what exactly did this thing say? Let me read it to you. Let me read this to you as she's talking a little bit about this. She says, the hamstringing things and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Censoring free speech on topics that included Hunter Biden, his laptop, which many people said would have changed their votes against Joe Biden had they been aware of that laptop and some of its contents. COVID-19 origins. Well, now the government says that it's very likely that COVID-19 originated from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which was nearby a wet market. The latest theory involves somebody cleaning up one day and finding a couple of dead animals on the floor and taking it to the wet market for sale and a possible tasty dinner. And the other one is the efficacy of face masks. The most telling thing that I ever saw when it came to face masks, when people were disagreeing with it and people were being silenced on social media, was someone with a face mask on a cold day breathing. And you could see all this vapor coming out of the face mask. Well, if he had COVID, every single droplet of vapor would have shedded virus from COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2 virus, all through it. Face masks didn't do a thing. Now, we all know this in hindsight. And people would say, well, yeah, you're trying not to keep the government from saying something that's going to scare mom and pop America into an absolute seizure of fear. Well, there's a problem with that as well. Because Donald Trump was vilified for trying to maintain calm in the country by talking about the virus in ways that he thought were completely true, that it was not as serious a disease as you thought of. Then he was reviled for saying, what about all the people that died? Well, okay, so what about, say, for example, driving cars? Should cars be illegalized? More people die of car accidents, and so on and so forth than just about any other cause of death in the United States. To say that, hey, if you drive well, you'll be okay, and then be vilified by, well, what about the people that died? I mean, really? And this is the hypocrisy. This is the lunacy that charges the American experience on election years. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. If you find value in this broadcast, remember it. Share it with your friends. Subscribe to it. Hit the notification button. Give us those thumbs ups. Those really help us out. And by all means, stick around because more of the Wells Report is coming up next.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Our telephone number 817-379-2172. While we're on the subject of the Supreme Court, for the second time this month, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito extended the stay on SB 4. That is a controversial Texas law that would make it a state crime for a migrant to cross into Texas illegally. The Alito order was released by the nation's highest court yesterday, 5 minutes after his self-imposed deadline to issue the order. The bottom line is the state law known as SB 4 will not take effect anytime soon. Alito's order did not include a deadline, so the stay will remain in effect indefinitely. The Supreme Court has temporarily halted the enforcement of SB 4, but it did not halt Texas's pre-existing authority to arrest for criminal trespass and other violations of the law. This, according to Governor Abbott. So, in other words, Alito made it possible for the law to continue. He did not say, well, it's gone forever and therefore you're stuck. He didn't say that. What he said was he's going to hang on until there's more case law to consider before making a complete decision. Now, as we come to this, there was a report about this from CBS 11 in Dallas. They did a very good report, and here it is on the Wells Report.
Drama this afternoon, but the bottom line is this. Justice Alito has punted once again and has now extended the stay on SB 4 indefinitely as the nation's highest court still considers whether this state law is constitutional. He had extended the stay until 4 o'clock Texas time today, and we didn't get the court's order until 4:05, 5 minutes after the deadline. Now, Governor Greg Abbott signed the legislation December 18th, and the very next day, the number of organizations filed a lawsuit challenging it. They claim the state's law was illegal because the courts have previously ruled that only the federal government has jurisdiction on the immigration law. The state law would allow local police to make arrests on state charges when someone entered the country between the ports of entry. Governor Abbott has said the federal government wasn't doing anything to keep the record number of migrants from crossing the southern border. And so he said Texas was left with no other choice but to enact this legislation to act as a deterrent. A federal judge ruled against Texas, which appealed to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans. That court sided with Texas, and then the Biden administration appealed that decision to the U.S. Supreme Court.
And that is the story, and that is the background, so you have some idea of what exactly is going on here. I'm telling you, this is something that is great for all of us, because what we have here is we have a remarkable opportunity to actually see what is happening from a standpoint of decision making in the law. And that's a good thing, not a bad thing. However, what we see is we also see a government that is, for whatever reason, very reticent to back away from what most people consider are mistakes. Just to give you a little bit of a backgrounder, the state of Texas owns the land between the international ports of entry. And when I say this is an interesting case that we are going to profit from eventually what's going to happen, I suspect, I could be wrong, but I don't think I'm going to be on this one, is that there will be a differentiation between what is federal property and what is state property. The border belongs to the state in between, in my view, the international ports of entry. The international ports of entry can be handled by the federal government all they want to. But the space in between, that's a completely different story. If that's the only thing that comes out of all of this rumination of jurisprudence, if that's the only thing that comes out of it, that's a win. That's a win. It's not going to be. What's going to end up happening is that the federal government will be absolutely forced by the judicial branch of the government to follow the Constitution and maintain a secure border of the United States. And depending on who the presidency falls to in the next election, what we may indeed see is we may see a wholesale deportation of people here that are not legal to be here. Will that make America better, or will it make America worse? And why? 817-379-2172, 817-379-2172. Let us know what you think, because we need to know, because we want truth after this broadcast, not more argument. Back in a moment.
nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. If you are expecting another right-wing guy talking about right-wing things and Republican this and Republican that and all is well and wonderful as long as you're Republican, well, you've come to the wrong place. This broadcast is constitutional, not congressional. It is based on the rule of law, not the rule of politics. People say, well, you're just a blatant Trump supporter. Not at all. As a matter of fact, I reject that. I just happen to believe at this particular moment, President Trump is on the correct side of the argument when it comes to the Constitution and the rule of law, as opposed to the Congress, the body politic, and the rule of politics. That's the way I feel. If you disagree, by all means, share your point of view. You can call me 817-379-2172. You can also join us on the chat room. Mugwump says, justice across the ideological spectrum appeared highly skeptical about the claims the Biden administration crossed the line and coerced private companies into removing problematic content. The only problem with all of that is, and yeah, I know that I'm putting myself in a position where I'm disagreeing with justices of the Supreme Court, an institution that I have stood for decades. I have to say that the Constitution of the United States is completely clear on this. And the spectrum of the ideological spectrum appearing highly skeptical about claims the Biden administration crossed the line and coerced private companies into removing problematic content is not an opinion. It's the news. They did all those things. And moreover, they were wrong. They took down posts that proved to be correct over time. And so, where do you go from here? Well, where you go from here is that, yeah, people can say really stupid things. Free speech is like that. But a lot of times, people that are characterized as saying really stupid things are not saying stupid things. They are saying things that are completely correct. And that is the case that Ketanji Brown Jackson decided was hamstringing the federal government from doing the right thing for the safety and the prosperity of the American people. That's crap. It's absolute crap. How did we ever get here? Well, the Biden administration appointed Ketanji Brown Jackson, and that entire responsibility rests with them. The Louisiana, let me try this one more time. The Louisiana Solicitor General had comment. This comes from X, which is a platform that hosts the Wells Report every day. I can't say thank you to Mr. Musk enough for that privilege of being able to access this audience. But here is what Benjamin Aquinaga had to say regarding all of this.
Reasons that all of us know.
Okay, hang on just a moment. Okay, so once again, we do have this a little annoying factor where people say where in other words where Fox has this automatic start and I can't do anything about it. And so this is again Benjamin Aquinaga, who was the Louisiana Solicitor General. This is what he had to say on C-SPAN regarding this particular decision. Let's take a look at it.
Justice Jackson?
So my biggest concern is that your view has the First Amendment hamstringing the government in significant ways in the most important time periods. I mean, what would you have the government do? I've heard you say a couple times that the government can post its own speech, but in my hypothetical, kids, this is not safe, don't do it, is not going to get it done. And so I guess some might say that the government actually has a duty to take steps to protect the citizens of this country. And you seem to be suggesting that that duty cannot manifest itself in the government encouraging or even pressuring platforms to take down harmful information. So can you help me? Because I'm really worried about that because you've got the First Amendment operating in an environment of threatening circumstances from the government's perspective, and you're saying that the government can't interact with the source of those problems.
And Your Honor, I understand that instinct, and I guess what I tell you is
Okay. And it quit.
Justice Jackson?
So my
Okay.
biggest
So
concern is that your
unfortunately,
view
we find ourselves in a
First
position where that
Amendment
ends a
hamstringing the
little bit
government in significant
quicker than I
ways.
wanted it to, but we did get to hear Ketanji Brown Jackson, the Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States, saying exactly what she thought, which is injurious to the Constitution of the United States. And so if you wanted to know what all this hubbub was about, now you know. The Wells Report is what you're watching. Thank you very much for doing so. There was another interesting piece of information that had to do with how the American Jewish movement in these United States does indeed have some significant, shall we say, differences of opinions when it comes to just exactly how these people should handle themselves in a circumstance whereby Benjamin Netanyahu and what is going on with regard to Gaza and the Israeli response to it has created an interesting discussion among the Jewish street. Let's take a look at that here on the Wells Report.
It's the needs of Israel after October 7th. And I believe that holding a new election, once the war starts to wind down, would give Israelis an opportunity to express their vision for the post-war future.
Chuck Schumer is the highest-ranking Jewish elected official here in America, a staunch supporter of Israel. What's your response?
I think what he said is totally inappropriate. It's inappropriate for to go to a sister democracy and try to replace the elected leadership there. That's something that the Israeli public does on its own. We're not a banana republic. I think the only government that we should be working on to bring down now is the terrorist tyranny in Gaza, the Hamas tyranny that murdered over 1,000 Israelis, including some dozens of Americans, and is holding Americans and Israelis hostage. That's what we should be focused on. And as far as what Senator Schumer said, the majority of Israelis support our governments. 82% of Americans support Israel instead of Hamas, but the majority of Israelis support the policies that we're leading. Go into Rafah, destroy the remaining Hamas terrorist battalions, make sure that we don't put into Gaza, instead of Hamas, the Palestinian Authority that educates their children towards terrorism and the annihilation of Israel, and also an enormous majority.
Yeah. And so what you have is you have Benjamin Netanyahu saying Chuck Schumer is wrong, and he is wrong on several different levels because the majority of the Jewish street believes as he does. And that is why he is the prime minister of that nation. And okay, so there you go. But that's not the only place you find this. We reported on this story when it happened and was shocked to find out that Chuck Schumer feels the way he does and would indeed interfere in not just Israeli politics, but in Israeli elections as well. That was egged on again by the Biden administration, who met with Benny Gantz, who was the political opponent of Benjamin Netanyahu. This is election interference. And isn't the United States horrified at the possibility that other nations would interfere in our elections? What in the living hell are we doing interfering in the elections of Israel? What are we doing? Well, what we're doing is we're placating the left. As I said yesterday, Chuck Schumer wasn't talking to Israel. He wasn't even talking to Benjamin Netanyahu. He was talking to Michigan. And you're going, what? What? There's a huge voting bloc of anti-Jewish individuals living in Michigan. And he wants those votes come 2024. And all he's trying to do is virtue signal to the American left and those who, I'll just keep it very blunt and frank, that are anti-Jewish bigots attempting to participate in the destruction of the state of Israel. That's the way I see it. If you believe otherwise, by all means, join us. So it's not just Chuck Schumer. It's not just Benjamin Netanyahu. It's also the Hollywood left. There was a speech that was given by one of the Oscar winners, Jonathan Glazer. He did a a film called The Zone of Interest and won the Oscar for it. He then said this: "We refute our Jewishness being hijacked for the purpose of drawing a moral equivalence between." Oh, okay, that's not the quote that I wanted here. Let's see. What happened was that he, in his speech, said that he refuted his Jewishness. Let me go ahead and read this. I got this wrong. "We refute our Jewishness being hijacked for the purpose of drawing a moral equivalence between a Nazi regime that sought to exterminate a race of people and an Israeli nation that seeks to avert its own extermination." This was an open letter first reported by Variety. "Every civilian death is tragic in Gaza, but Israel is not targeting civilians. It's targeting Hamas. The moment Hamas releases hostages and surrenders is the moment of this heartbreaking war ends. This has been true since Hamas attacks of October 7th. That was a reply to this speech, The Zone of Interest. Glazer said, "Our film shows where dehumanization leads at its worst," he said. "Right now, we stand here as men who refute their Jewishness and Holocaust, being attacked by an occupation," referring to Israel, "which has led to conflict for so many innocent people. Whether the victims of October the 7th in Israel or the ongoing attack on Gaza, all the victims of this dehumanization, how do we resist?" Glazer's words were immediately repudiated by one of the film's executive producers, Danny Cohen, who said last week, "I fundamentally disagree with Jonathan Glazer. It's really important to recognize it's upset a lot of people, and a lot of people feel upset and angry about it, and I understand that anger, frankly," said Cohen. "The war and the continuation of the war is the responsibility of Hamas, a genocidal terrorist organization which continues to hold and abuse the hostages, which doesn't use its tunnels to protect innocent civilians of Gaza, but uses it to hide themselves and allow Palestinians to die. I think the war is tragic and awful, and the loss of civilian life is awful, but I blame Hamas for that." And so do I. And so do I. Let's see, the Holocaust Survivors Foundation USA president, 94-year-old Holocaust survivor David Shachter, wrote to Glazer saying, "I watched in anguish when I heard you use the platform of the Oscars ceremony to equate Hamas's maniacal brutality against innocent Israelis, with Israelis' difficulty but necessary self-defense in the face of Hamas's ongoing barbarity. Your comments were factually inaccurate and morally indefensible. The occupation of which you speak has nothing to do with the Holocaust. The Jewish people's existence and right to live in the land of Israel predates the Holocaust by hundreds of years. Many people would say centuries, and even a millennium or two. Today's political and geographic landscape is the direct result of wars started by past Arab leaders who refused to accept Jewish people as their neighbors in our historic homeland. Now that several Arab countries are making peace with Israel because security and prosperity are better for all people, Iran and its terrorist proxies started another war abetted by too many who, through naivety or malice, blame the Israeli occupation." So, in the Jewish street, there is serious disagreement. But to refute your Jewishness for the sake of Palestinian politics is not going to be on the correct side of history. The Israelis paid for that land with the blood of 6 million of their family members. And indeed, from the river to the sea, talking about the Jordan River to the Mediterranean, Palestine will be free. That is a euphemism for the very genocidal ideology that the Palestinians are now foisting on Israel. Self-defense is not genocide. Well, what about all the innocent Palestinians? Okay. I addressed this on X. And I went back and I did some real research. I started with the appearance of Hamas in the late 80s as an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood, and chronicled the terror attacks leading to the 2006 election of Hamas as the government of the people of Gaza. They did that voluntarily. Hamas moved forward and picked a bunch of fights with Israel And every single one of them ended badly, just like this one is. Not so much badly for Hamas, but certainly badly for the Palestinian people. But the Palestinian people have chosen Hamas. I have no problems. I mean, I have problems with terrorism all day long, but I don't have problems with Palestinians who are trying to figure out just exactly why their government waged war against one of the world's great militaries, and then are somehow horrified and trying to use a propagandist excuse against that military for the IDF taking them up on that wage of war. This is what happens when you wage war and kill people based on what church they go to. It's morally indefensible. And to stand in league with that is equally morally indefensible in my view. What do you think? Let me know. Back with more in a moment. This is the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells, thanking you very much for joining us on this broadcast. If you find value here, share it with your friends. Tell everybody about the Wells Report. It would be very good if you did, because I'd be able to keep doing this for a living, which would be nice. If you choose to, subscribe. Have your friends subscribe. Hit the notification button so you know when we're on the air. We often do special broadcasts of big news events, because this is first and foremost, a news show, not a political one. And so do that. Hit the notification button, subscribe, share with your friends. And if you'd like to support the show financially, you can do so by going to patreon.com/The Wells Report. patreon.com/The Wells Report. You can throw us a couple of bucks every month or so. People do that, and it's awfully nice. Helps us keep the lights on around this studio, and I'd appreciate it. As I said, this show is about news. It's also about great things American, like baseball. Baseball is an amazing sport. I played from age 9 to age 47, and then I started coaching after that. I love the game. So many ways to win. You can win with your mind. You can win with your arm. You can win with your legs. You can win with your bat. So many ways. And while there's a team out there on a baseball field, everybody has a specific job. They have to work together. It's a perfect microcosm of how America works. So baseball's coming back up, and I'm looking forward to it because I've missed baseball in this long drudge of a winter of NFL football and NBA, although I like the NHL a lot. But here we go with a new season of baseball. And so there are exhibition games being played all around the world. In fact, there was one played in Korea the other day. The Dodgers were there, and there was a Korean actress who threw out the first pitch. And let me tell you something. This was such a beautiful event. I figured that you should see it. So this actress in high top socks and a jersey, I don't know what she's wearing in between those two things. Anyway, she decided that she was going to throw out the first pitch. There's no sound on this video. I don't know why. But there she is standing, waiting for her moment to throw out the first pitch. She checks the runner at second. That's very good. That's all baseball stuff, right? And she's beautiful. And the Dodgers noticed. The Dodgers noticed that she was beautiful. And then, in my best play-by-play voice, she looks in for the sign, she kicks and deals. And it was strike-ish, shall we say. And she got a round of applause, and she waved, and so on and so on. And the Dodgers said, wow, is there any way we can put her in the starting rotation? Or words to that effect. Anyway, then she's posed for pictures, and that is the happiest bullpen pitcher in the history of the Dodgers. And then she walked away. Yeah. And that's why baseball is such a great sport. It's diverse. It's not just men playing the game. There's a place for women in this game, especially South Korean actresses, because they're athletic. As you could see, she knew what she was doing. She checked the runner at second base before she made the first pitch. I thought it was fantastic. As a coach, it warmed the cockles of let me rephrase that. It warmed my heart to see her do such a great job with that first pitch, you know? And I thought I'd share that with you because baseball is on the way, and I can certainly appreciate her fine athletic efforts. Can't you? I mean, obviously she's in shape. There you go. Let's see. Getting back to what we're up to here. Let's get back to the chat room. Mugwump just said, speaking of American Jews, Trump said yesterday, Jews who support Democrats hate Israel and their religion. And I said, do you disagree? And he said this, just more hateful rhetoric from Trump that I give a pass to. What's hateful about that? Even the Hollywood left took to task one of their very own who said something against the state of Israel. Indeed, his entire religion. If that's not hating the religion or hating Israel, what is it, Mug? Now, once again, I'm not arguing. I'm just asking questions. That's what I'm trying to bring to this discussion. A discussion. You don't have to agree with me. This broadcast is not about agreement. This broadcast is about truth. And it's about meaningful debate. Mug, by the way, if you want to call me, 817-379-2172. You may have to wait until tomorrow because we're running out of time. So the Hollywood left is a monolith. Well, ask any conservative actor who happens to be working in Hollywood if indeed there is a monolithic leftism in Hollywood. There absolutely is, and there have been for decades. Come on, man. you know, there are times when thought and logic have to replace rhetoric and propaganda. That would be my thought to you at this particular moment. You know, what I'm saying is not just coming out of my hat. What I'm saying is based on research and reporting of the news. The Hollywood left is upset with this guy who said that he refuses to allow Jewishness to be used in the formation or in the forwarding of the state of Israel. Come on, it's right there in his statement. Hey, Liz. Oh, that wasn't an insult, Mug. I'm so sorry if you felt that way. He said thanks for the insult. That's not an insult, man. That's an invitation. Join me on the Wells Report. As a matter of fact, do it again tomorrow. We will return at 9 Central. See you then. Gosh, that was fun. By the way, to all the people that joined us on the chat room today, thanks very much for being here. I'm talking directly to you when I say pass this along to your friends. And if you would like to support the show, go to Patreon and subscribe and throw us a couple of bucks every month. Lots of people do that, and it makes our life around here a lot easier. But by all means, tell the folks that you know that this broadcast is out here. We're not, like I said earlier, this show is constitutional, not congressional. It is not politics. It is the news. And it's constitutional. And many people say, well, you're just a Trump supporter, including a guy screaming at the top of his lungs into the telephone earlier today. Well, I'm not a Trump supporter at this particular moment. I'm a newsman. I happen to believe, and it's true, I happen to believe that Donald Trump is on the right side of the constitutional and Bill of Rights questions on this one. I happen to believe that he is a victim of lawfare. And in that statement, at least 2/3 of Americans, including Democrats, agree. Once again, not reporting what's kicking around in my mind. I don't have the ego for that. But I can read, and I can think. And I can look at the Constitution of the United States, and I can look at the differences between the script on those pages and the scripts on the pages of America's news. And we're not going down that road. We're going to report the truth. So, as we always say at the end of a broadcast like this, have a good, safe day. Make great decisions. God bless you and yours. And thanks for joining us on the Wells Report. We'll see you again